Hello, welcome to High Vibe Astrology. This is Jennifer, back with a video on the Gemini full moon, drawn up for December 15th, 2024 at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're new, thank you so much for finding this channel, for tuning in, and for supporting this community with your positive energy. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the like button and share these messages as you feel guided. These are all free and easy ways to support this channel. This community, by the way, is a quantum one. It goes well beyond our subscribership and into the cosmos, where we are all connected by that divine matrix. What we're really doing is creating new pathways analogous to neuropathways within the human mind. We're finding and accessing those connections within the infinite mind that feel like they're new to us personally, when more than likely they're just ancient memories. Humanity's journey is one of remembering and recalling is the conscious calling back of these spiritual gifts and abilities. So I'm calling this Gemini full moon the twin within. One is masculine, one is feminine. It's interesting to me that Gemini is the twins and also the lovers. In the 3D world, it's twins and siblings from our biological family, but in the higher spiritual dimensions, it's representing the beloved other half, that twin who mirrors back to us our shadow nature. Whether or not you believe in the twin flame experience, it's real for many, perhaps not everyone, but for many people it is. And it is the most challenging journey of achieving balance and harmony in a romantic relationship that exists. It's definitely not an easy path. And that's because on the twin flame journey, the twins represent the same soul with two different bodies, two different physical perspectives. The journey literally is about uniting opposition in harmony. But whether or not you use this term twin flame, and whether or not you're partnered, every single one of us has to make the journey of uniting our opposition, our shadow, in harmony with the light of consciousness. A long time ago, I read a book called The Kingdom Within, and I remember the author talking about the prodigal son and how each one of us has a prodigal son or daughter within. The left side of the brain wants to judge, and the right side is that part of us that instead of staying at home and always doing the right thing, quote unquote, chooses to go out and live life, to have all of these experiences and allow those experiences to teach us. But ultimately, we are all coming home to ourselves, and we cannot be whole by being one or the other. The Father represents our higher self, who understands that both are complementary to each other and have to learn from each other's perspective. And that's really what I feel from this Gemini full moon. Two sides of the same coin, or two perspectives of one soul. This full moon falls in the 8th house. The 8th house requires the processing of emotional energy, particularly those triggers from those ancient memories I was talking about, but they are memories of our positive spiritual gifts, yes, but in the 8th house, it's also those shadow memories, the trauma, the shame, the blame, the betrayal, the ridicule, and even death in some cases. The low vibe of Gemini is not being able to see the forest for the trees because we're situated between these two perspectives, between the two pillars, which is the symbol of Gemini. And those are the only two perspectives we think we can access. That is as long as we continue to limit ourselves to only seeing those two options. As long as we do that, we are staying in duality, and then we keep dueling it out or duking it out, as it were, with that twin perspective. So what is the remedy? In Gemini's case, it is Sagittarius, the opposite sign. This is the sky's the limit perspective and one of optimism. You could say that Gemini's low vibe perspective is the glass half empty, and Sagittarius's high vibe is the glass half full. More than that, though, with this Gemini full moon in the 8th house, what we're processing are those fears of lack and limitation, loss, betrayal, and grief that keep us steeped in our own misery. Jupiter brings us that hope and optimism, a bright new opportunity we couldn't see when we were buried in the compost heap. Jupiter appears to be leaving us because the moon and Jupiter are separating from each other. But on February 4th, Jupiter will turn direct at 11 degrees of Gemini, which is another highly symbolic number because 1111 is a twin flame number. 1111 is the gateway for establishing a new foundation and stability for bringing those complementary energies and perspectives into harmony, the Four of Wands in Tarot. Mercury, the ruler of this Gemini moon, is also retrograde, and so is Mars, the planet of action and moving forward. In this chart, we have two grand trines, one air and one fire. Both of these elements are masculine, so they like to move, they want to take action. Yet because of the retrograde planets and the nature of this full moon, we feel like we're in limbo. We feel like we're up in the air and having to circle the airport. Fire is the spirit that animates life, so it is inspiration, and very often it requires an act of courage or risk-taking, stepping out in faith in some way. This fire trine involves our destiny, represented by the Aries North Node, and its ruler Mars, which is retrograde, as well as Mercury, the ruler of this Gemini full moon. So the inspiration coming in, we feel it, but it's like someone has applied the emergency brake, keeping us from landing that plane or from moving forward right now in the way that we might like to, or having the clarity. Air feeds fire, and the air trine is fed by our past patterns and relationships, represented by the Libra South Node, and it's linking up with Sedna and Pluto, both of which rule over the death of the old and outworn patterns so that we can regenerate and revitalize something brand new, something more worthy to who we are at the most authentic level. Leading up to this full moon, I have been experiencing a lot of heavy energy. I've experienced physical symptoms that mostly impact the right side of my body, and it's felt like density, stagnation. I've been working on myself with the tuning forks to get things moving again and bring things back into harmony. This, by the way, I perceive as ascension symptoms. And even in this chart, the Gemini Sagittarius energy flow is about releasing 3D perspectives and experiences so that we can discover new opportunities. And it all goes hand in hand with getting acclimated to the higher dimensional frequencies and energies that are flooding the earth right now. This is the first time in Earth's history that we are learning as humanity to actually ascend while still being in our physical body. So we're not just spirits in a physical world, we're also physical vehicles in the world of spirit. And as we leave the age of Pisces, we are having to do the work ourselves, and it is an inner job. It's not an external taking action job, and that's what this lunar cycle and this chart is really describing for us. Anyway, I do find it interesting that Western theory, the right side is the masculine side and the left side is the feminine side. Now, in Chinese medicine, I think they reverse that, and I don't have time to debate this. I believe that whatever is applicable to you and whatever feels right to you is what you should go with. In my case, it has always felt like the left side of my body is more receptive, allowing energy in, while the right side had more to do with dispensing energy. One is receiving, one is giving. As I was preparing for this video and throughout this week, there's been a struggle to clarify the message in this chart. But even that struggle was part of the learning process. And Spirit reminded me of an incident, a really silly but 3D experience I had with a door in the house that simply would not stay shut. It's like the door got out of alignment so it wouldn't click shut simply by closing it. And I kept slamming it. So I'm telling this to my mother, and in her infinite wisdom, she says, "Well, have you tried lifting it up?" So I did, and of course, it clicked right into place and it stayed shut. After this, my go-to psychologically is to beat myself up, to call myself an idiot. Any human being with common sense ought to be able to figure that out, that you just lift up on the handle to make it click shut. But if I hadn't had that experience, I don't know that the message in this chart would have actually clicked with me. So instead of forcing something or trying to slam it into place, just be uplifting to yourself or gentle instead of beating yourself up. Just allow yourself to process these energies instead of trying to force the next step. This 3D world is our classroom and source light is the teacher. But we are the ones having to do the homework. And that means that we are the ones who get to decide how long it's going to take for us to graduate. We think that we can speed up the process by working faster, harder, taking on more work. In other words, we try to advance our curriculum before we're ready. But neither can we sit back lethargically or in apathy and not do anything. So the trick is always to be in balance between these two perspectives of doing and simply allowing. Staying in the flow with the universe is how we stay in harmony and feel better in our own physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. We make it so convoluted and complicated and make ourselves miserable in the process. So maybe we can realize that by letting go and releasing, this represents the two energies being in balance. It is simultaneously letting something go while we also receive something. It really is aligned with this Gemini energy in the 8th house, the lover's energy in the house that is the result of being in a marriage. And I hadn't intended to go there, but it really is that little death or orgasmic energy. I know in my life when I have found myself in the deepest despair. At the same time, I was also aware of my soul rejoicing, because in that release of grief, I was finally allowing the space to let in my higher self's perspective. The 3D matrix, an ultimate lie, is that we have no power, that we have no choice. It feels like a straitjacket or concrete prison cell until we realize that that cell door isn't locked. We just think it is because we've been told for so long that it's locked, that we have no way out. But maybe what we really are afraid of is setting ourselves free and experiencing the power, which also requires a great deal of responsibility that comes from being free. Once we let grief go and eradicate all self-blame, all shaming and guilting, then we can allow whatever experience is showing up for us to simply be that classroom. It is the inner way, or the way of the Tao. And this letting go also has a lot to do with forgiveness. Lately, I've been saying to myself, I choose to forgive so that I may live and love more freely. It is a conscious choice, and it's not easy to forgive the actions or non-action of someone else. But forgiving, 9 times out of 10, has nothing to do with them. It's only about freeing up space and bandwidth within our own psyche, like freeing up our computer, up all of the junk files so that our computer operates more efficiently and it has more space for greater software programs. We're just saying to the universe, I may not be there yet, but I choose to see the glass as half full rather than half empty. So these are all things that I've been feeling as part of the ascension process. And whether my physical symptoms clear up or not, I do notice that when I feel better emotionally, I always feel better physically. And I do perceive this whole process as allowing the denser and heavier 3D energies to rise to the surface so that they can be consciously released. We don't need to be afraid of our own shadow. But if you feel like someone is playing with dark forces and coming at you from an outside source, then by all means call in source light and stand in your power. When you're practicing on a daily basis, calling in those beings of light you personally acknowledge, then you can trust that what comes to you and what is unfolding is for your highest good. So you can acknowledge that shadow side of yourself and allow its perspective to just gently be integrated, to gently lift up your perspective and click into place very naturally. And so I'd like to leave you with a message from Rumi. This is an excerpt from The Right Choice. On the path of love, there is not so much wrong or right in the moral sense, so much as what is wrong or right for you. The mind cannot help much here. Only the heart can speak such truths. The mind may reject it, recoil, analyze, and find all the reasons why the simple truth, the right choice of the heart, cannot possibly work and only lead to pain. That is what the mind does rather well, actually, but it doesn't mean the right choice, the heart choice, becomes incorrect. It means rather that the heart has outsmarted the mind, and the mind will need to bow to the heart, even without understanding its sometimes impenetrable mysteries. Or one can choose to stay in inner conflict, fighting against the right choice. But eventually, love will prevail, and the way forward must be taken. It is said that one man's meat is another man's poison. To base your choices on what others have chosen for themselves may end up killing you. Better to take your risks on the angel of your own heart, wise as that being is, and dance to your own heart rhythm instead. This oracle comes with a message for you. In your heart, you know what holds meaning for you. You may or may not have a grand vision to go along with that meaning as yet, but deep within, you know what holds value for you. You were born with those values intact in your heart, and whatever confusion has arisen for you along the way is just where the values of others have transfused into your own blood. It is time for a transfusion of holy light into that blood, to be cleansed and purified, restored to its integrity, and filled with passion for what is rightfully yours, your unique passion and purpose. If you have been concerned about your path and what steps to take next, this oracle comes as an omen of good things headed your way: clarity, reassurance, truth, and revelation. Let things go the way they will, and good fortune will prevail for you. The hand of the great beloved that removes is the same hand that bestows even greater gifts.